is ARCO monitoring. She's pacing in and out. And that's the Ontario police pacing around in a circle. I just took pictures. They're flying in a circle right here. It does so at the same time that she starts locking the door. This is all audible noise and engineer light. And the Ontario police are monitoring, just like the Ontario International Airport. The images I just took, they're flying over the Ontario downtown luxury apartments. Sarah's Regis Group, that's gang stalking. Sarah's Regis Group is gang stalking with the city of Ontario, and doing so with the Ontario Police Department. They're being disbanded. And that's federal prison. ARCO is systematically engaged in gang stalking with the city of Ontario. Here's one shadow over here. Here's two shadows right here. And this is the entity that engaged in assault with a deadly weapon. Okay, that's why they're being disbanded. That third party is engaged in what is a malicious act of assault and deadly weapon pursuant to surveillance, and that's federal prison. She is going to federal prison. 8 EIP 592, that's ARCO. The employee that I've been documenting, that's P.O.C, and she's a sex offender. This is a homosexual. I'm obsessed with my vagina. This is the conduct of the Nephilim and the public corruption of the business and the gang stalking demons. Okay, that's P.O.C. This is mental illness while they're flying in a circle. And this is about this right here that I'm going to publish on the internet, the podcast that the entity is monitoring. Mike LORENZ is very severely mentally ill. Mike LORENZ is a part of the Nephilim. This is the entity that's engaged in kidnapping. What is C. Hazelwood and Ravanko showing you? They are the Nephilim, and they're engaged in criminal monitoring. They're having no authority under the municipal code, by the way. They have no authority under the penal code. They have no authority under the law. They're engaged in surveillance, and that's why any gang stalking judge acting on this agency, you don't have any warrant or probable cause as a sheriff, and you certainly don't have any jurisdiction in the court. You're going to prison. The people of the state that engage in what is assault and battery with deadly weapons while they're gang stalking is federal prison. This demon's monitoring by blasting music. This fluoride, if he's not a natural born citizen, you deport them. 9MTK235 is gang stalking and engineer light with the entity that's flying in circles. This is directly correlated to what the entity is engaging in using helicopters. This is domestic terrorism. You see the black faces? The gang stalking immigrants, white folks, Asians, all alike are gang stalking with corrupt law enforcement. This is P.O.C. All right, that's the entity. ARCO is gang stalking. Starbucks is gang stalking. Chevron is gang. This is crossing path. And they engage in what is surveilling me, assault with a deadly weapon in the middle of the street, based on the entity that is hostile because they're engaged in what is the pattern of conduct. Everybody in that parking lot I documented, and they're sharing in surveillance with that agency that's flying in circles, like they are everywhere in the city of Ontario, over my hotel room, over Tracy Banks' apartment, over the top of my head, over the Ovid Family Community Library, over the Starbucks kidnapping on July 4, 2025. Guess what's happening to Ocean and Amelia and Patty and all them that committed kidnapping with that agency? They're going to prison. Okay, and their foolish documented criminal means of targeting is putting them in federal prison. That was a specific act of documented terrorism with the intent to obstruct justice. It's currently 10:08 p.m. This is being documented via podcast. This is P.O.C. This is what the entity commits every time I am engaged in what is publishing their criminal conduct. And this is the entity that is going to be disbanded. Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison. The entity that's engaged in defaming my character with the criminal defamation of the Ontario police that are engaged in what is gang stalking me, you're going to federal prison. And everybody that engaged in kidnapping because they're not lawful arrest by this agency that's targeting, they're going to federal prison. The entity is also mentally ill. The Nephilim are gang stalking under the fake sun, and this agency is going to be disbanded, and they're all going to prison. That I'm documenting gang stalking me under the fake sun in furtherance of psychological torture, harassment, and terrorism. They're going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. This is crossing path. All right, this is what they're doing on the roads and the highways traffic. And this is the entity that's touching me when I'm unconscious in order to molest my person. That's the agency that is a sex offender. And it is very specific with regard to knowledge that the entity is not engaging in any emergency. The entity is not targeting anybody else. The entity is engaged in a documented pattern of stalking me at the Ontario Town Square, flying in circles over me for an hour, for 20 minutes, engaging what is a public nuisance. Doing so, flying over me while I'm at the Starbucks. Doing so while I'm documenting the supernatural phenomenon of a sun that rises and sets over me on 1 Street, Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:09 p.m. This is the entity that's presented evidence to the world, to the nation, and to the federal government regarding the federal government's targeting me through the Ontario police. That's going to be dealt with, but the Ontario police in particular are being removed, including the fire department and the airport that are engaging in surveillance. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:09 p.m.